basically what you're going to need, the information you're going to need later when you apply the hero's journey to the Odyssey. So pay attention because this is going to help you with your project. All right, so here we go. To start, the hero's journey. There's going to be some things I'm going to show you, some notes, some quotes, just like good quotes about the hero's journey. I'm going to show you a little movie, a little storytelling time. Literally, we're gonna read a children's story together, and then we're gonna start sort of going into the deeper meaning of this and how it applies to stuff like the Odyssey. So, first of all, common characteristics of a hero's journey. What are, if you can think off the top of your head, what are some things you often see in the journey of a hero? Think the protagonist of a story.
Obstacles.
Obstacles?
Like a goal, rising action.
In those rising actions, what are some things that people often come across?
A turning point.
Sure.
What kind of conflict?
What kind of conflicts? What kind of obstacles?
Person
Almost
grab
getting
himself.
killed, for example.
Okay, yeah. Sure.
Or someone else getting killed. Like your best friend. And you're just like hanging out. Oh, I hate that.
There are often, right, someone close to the protagonist, the hero, does die in the middle of the story, yeah.
Not animal driving action, but like some sort of leaving home or something.
All right. Right? Doesn't the hero always leave home? Right? At some point. Doesn't have to, right? Could just fight the dragon at home. But no, they always have to leave home. Anything else? If you could kind of draw this, what would this journey look like? And if you could just use your pencil and some
Like,
one of these things, like the pyramid we drew before, Freytag's pyramid.
spray tiles.
All right. Well, so we're going to take this understanding that you already have, and you probably know more about the hero's journey, you know, just from, if you could think about like comparing movies and things. We're going to start here, and I'm going to hopefully enrich your understanding of this journey. And it's going to go to the point that you're going to watch a movie, and you are going to be able to deconstruct that movie, take it apart piece by piece, and then know what those pieces are and how they are integral to any hero's journey. So, to start, you have to know what we're talking about here, which is not just called the hero's journey. The official name for this is called the monomyth. And this is a term that's, when you're really talking about literature, you're going to use, but really if you hear the hero's journey, same kind of thing. And it kind of raises the question, why are there so many stories of the hero in mythology? And in movies, why are there so many stories of the hero, right? It's in like everything, every story. Well, the answer to that, Joseph Campbell says that because that's what's worth writing about. And you're probably wondering, who is Joseph Campbell? Well, he is, he passed away about almost 2 decades ago now, and was an American sort of lecturer and writer about the hero's journey. And what he did was he studied mythology, and he found that all the mythology, all the stories all over the world, even before cultures were talking with each other, were all very similar. And if you compare them, such like really interesting similarities arose. So he ended up writing even a book about this, which I have here, called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And this is the book that I think yesterday we talked about George Lucas. This inspired George Lucas to write Star Wars, which is another kind of hero's journey. So we're going to kind of, a lot of what I say today is based on Joseph Campbell. In fact, we're going to read some of his writing today. Oh, sorry, citing source. So the question is not whether we tell the same hero story over and over again. It's pretty clear that we do. The question is why? Why are we compelled to tell and retell the same story? You have to write all this down. But is there something about this story that we are drawn to? Is there even maybe something that we need? All right. And so many stories, many narratives follow this pattern, right? Harry Potter could just as easily replace Star Wars. You may have seen one of these kind of documents before. You know, Harry Potter or Luke Skywalker is an orphan living with his uncle and aunt on the wilderness of Tatooine or Suburbia. He's rescued from the Muggles or Star Wars aliens by wise, bearded Ben Kenobi or Hagrid, who turns out to be a Jedi Knight or Harry Potter wizard. And so on and so forth, right? Same exact story, replace the names, and you got Harry Potter or Star Wars. Same with, if you notice, I know some of you like to make fun of Avatar and how it relates to Pocahontas.
That's James' nickname in baseball.
Thanks. So in either 1600s or in the 22nd century, a ship carrying John Smith or whoever that guy was, forget his name, Sully, arrives in the lush new world of either Pandora or North America, and you know, both meet the Pocahontas slash the girl from the Na'vi, right? And the same story over and over, right? So this is, and there's like actually a website now I just saw yesterday that has like 30 of these documents where they like replace the names and it's the exact same story. So let's begin with a basic pattern, so you realize, just to kind of, so you get a taste of kind of the sort of structure. There's some sort of call to adventure, and you don't need to write all this down just yet. I would just write down the stuff in bold. So there's a call to adventure where the hero has to accept or decline the call. A road of trials, which is kind of like what Amir said, the rising actions. And eventually they achieve their goal, or what we call boon. We're going to use, I want you to use, when the hero gets the prize, from now on, as English students, call that the boon. And of course they return, they have to go back, right? To go back home, and they return usually with some sort of prize, boon, that they then give to the world or use to help all the people at home. Should sound familiar. You should start thinking about the Odyssey. To hit this point home, we're going to do a little story time here. You may have remembered this story from your childhood.
Except then they try to eat.
Oh,
Here you go. Movie is weird. Book is still much better.
It's not as weird.
Here we go. Of course, hopefully, I want you to watch this not just as as a story like you're 6 years old again, but now as an adult or young adult, with an eye for the hero's journey. Look out for the hero's journey. I want you to ask yourself, what does the boy learn, and what is his boon? What does he take home with him? All right.
The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind and another, his mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without eating anything. That very night in Max's room, a forest grew and grew and grew until his ceiling hung with vines, and the walls became the world all around, and an ocean tumbled by, with a private boat for Max, and he sailed off through night and day, and in and out of weeks, and almost over a year, to where the wild things are. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars, and gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws. Till Max said, "Be still," and tamed them with the magic trick of staring into all their yellow eyes without blinking once, and they were frightened, and called him the most wild thing of all, and made him king of all wild things. And now, cried Max, let the wild rumpus start. Now stop, Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. And Max, the king of all wild things, was lonely, and wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. Then all around from far away across the world he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being king of where the wild things are. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." And Max said no. The wild things roared their terrible roars, and gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye, and sailed back over a year, and in and out of weeks, and through a day, and into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him. And it was still hot.
Okay. Still good, right? It's funny. The movie probably took millions of people helping out and years to make, and I still don't think it's as good as this story, right? So there's. Yeah, and the effects are really cool. You should see it sometime, but just not as good as this. All right, so hopefully you were, while entranced with the story, also thinking critically about what is going on in terms of the hero's journey. And so what is Max's boon? He doesn't get a prize like gold or something,
Like
but
knowledge?
what? Okay, knowledge. Anything else?
No place like home. Home is good, or nothing to place else.
It was good. Yeah. And what about home does he learn to appreciate?
Love.
So, need to eat to live. I guess you could say that.
Well, then why is he on the boat like a year? I think that.
No, it's on the book. It's not like, but then when it came home,
No.
it's so hot.
You're both right. You're both right. No fighting here. There's some ambiguity.
It's
So
like
that's good that Adrian brought up the fact that it's not really about the journey.
You went into a deeper dream level. Right.
Yes. Anything else? I think love, definitely knowledge, home is good. When in the beginning of the story is resolved in terms of coming back with love.
He gets his supper.
Not only a supper, not only love for food, but what is he going to use this love? Who is he going to share it with? Yeah, his mom. Remember that? It's very subtle. It's like, that's why I love this story. It's like so quick, but and yet it says everything. So yeah, these are some of my thoughts. Even self-control, right? And ironically, he learns how to be a better human from the wild things. All right. No, going back. So here comes some quotes, which you don't have to write down, but if you want to kind of jot some notes to yourself, you can. All right. So Campbell, on the monomyth, on the spirit's quest, all of these different mythologies give us the same essential quest. He says, you leave the world that you're in and go into a depth or into a distance or up to a height. There you come to what was missing to your consciousness in the world you formerly inhabited. So remember, that makes you think just like the Odyssey, right? It's not a physical journey, but more spiritual, more mental, right? Then comes the problem of either staying with that and letting the world drop off, or returning with that boon, trying to hold on to it. In the Odyssey, does Odysseus struggle to come home? Yes, sure, right? And so Campbell says that's not an easy thing to do, like life. Campbell also says that in our contemporary commercial culture, the problem might be that there is no unifying myth. We create unifying myths through popular culture. And some people, now you know why basically Hollywood is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It basically entertains you with this hero's journey. And if you don't believe that, go to any script writing class in Hollywood, and it's all about Joseph Campbell and his monomyth. And how do you write a story like that? So, for example, Superman, Lord of the Rings, right? He leaves home, has to put the ring in the volcano, and then come back home.
I'm reading it right now, so thanks
Really?
for that.
Good. You didn't see the movie? Star Wars, classic example. Has anyone not seen Star Wars? All right, you got to see them. The originals, episodes 4, 5, 6.
No, you gotta see 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 are newer.
4, 5, and 6 are like better.
4 is like, I mean, it was like the breaking one, but it's like so bad compared to the third. Because it's so old.
In terms of the monomyth, and in terms of what's simply better, and that's maybe my opinion, but I think back to.
The characters are so much better in 4, 5, and 6.
But
Yeah, that's true.
consider Star Wars. Luke Skywalker. This is why you got to see the 4, 5, 6, because Luke Skywalker is really the classic hero. He is actually a farm boy, granted in space, but working on a small farm, kind of bored with his life, living with his aunt and uncle. And meanwhile, he's this actually born of sort of a special status. Remember the Greek hero is born of high status. Spider-Man. Yep. And so he leaves his farm to go fight in space. Same with the Matrix. Neo is kind of like a ordinary guy, kind of bored with his life, and then goes off into his journey. Harry Potter, living with his, again, aunt and uncle, right? Kind of abused and, treated like dirt, but meanwhile he's this special boy. And Campbell outlined these stages. He understands them so well, he puts them into a sort of conceptual formula, yeah. And they are called the 17 stages of the hero monomyth. And I'm not going to go through this right now. We're going to talk about this tomorrow, so you can just see it for a moment. But I told you to ask you to draw it. You gave me the pyramid. Well, now here's your sort of new concept or new image of what the monomyth looks like. It is a circle. We're going to look at it as a circle because you're essentially returning back to where you started. And which also kind of, I think, represents maybe like the cycle of life. right? So we'll get this tomorrow. But why so many tasks? You know, like why can't you just go off your journey and then like get the thing and then come home?
That's not.
Bad
'Cause
story.
that's-
Yeah, it's like,
That'd be
story ready.
just be a bad, boring story, right?
Not like
But Campbell says, you know, there's no reward without renunciation, without paying the price. The Quran says, do you think that you shall enter the garden of bliss without such trials as came to those who passed before you? The hero has to be tested, has to be proven worthy. And the journey of the self is a long path to develop oneself. It is, as you know, being in school. We'll get to this later. Campbell uses the phrase to explain how the journey is internal as opposed to this sort of physical fight. Campbell uses the phrase "the journey within." You may have heard of that. It's kind of like a cliche almost. Basically, this is the hero's journey is not really about fighting the dragon. To fight the dragon, to beat the dragon, it's about a journey towards self-knowledge. Think Telemachus or Odysseus, right? A comic book. Although he dies a tragic hero, right? And in a way, he kind of dies without attaining that self-knowledge, right? Paradoxically, finding the self means learning to become selfless. It usually means learning to not worry about yourself, but to learn the... What's that? Yeah. He also says losing yourself, giving yourself to some higher head or to another. You realize that this itself is the ultimate trial. When we quit thinking primarily about ourselves and our own self-preservation, we undergo the truly heroic transformation of consciousness. This is your challenge in life. This is the challenge in all stories. And so, as you do your hero essay, which you're going to start at the end of this week, that's something to think about. And there's the presentation. Thank you.